Morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Rabbi.
Good Tvach Shavua Tov. We are learning Mishnah Megillah, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. Now, as we know, if you live in an unwalled city, then you read the Megillah on the 14th of Adar. If you live in a walled city, then if you live in a walled city, then you read on the 15th of Adar. So the Mishnah now discusses what happens if you're a person who typically lives in a unwalled city, but Purim, you're in a walled city. Or the person who lives in a walled city, and on Purim you're in the 14th of Adar, you happen to be in an unwalled city. So the Mishnah is like this: Ben Ir Shahalach Lekrach. The person lives in a city, meaning a person lives in an unwalled city who went to a walled city. Uben Krach Shahalach Leir, or the person who lives in a walled city who went to an unwalled city. So just to read the words and then we'll explain it. Im asid lachzer lemekaymai. If he plans on returning to his place before the morning of where he is at, he reads like his regular place of residence. Otherwise, he reads with the people who he is there with. Now, the point of the Mishnah is going to be like this: that depending on depending on where you will be the morning of Purim, the determining factor is not where you will be at the night of Purim. The determining factor is going to be where you will be the morning of Purim. Where you will be the morning of Purim will determine, for Purim, what do we consider you? You can live a whole year long in an unwalled city, but depending on what point, if you will be for the morning of Purim where you are right now presently, you now become a member of that city for Purim, and you have to follow the laws of reading the Megillah for that city. So now we know there's a Mishnah. There's a mitzvah to read the Megillah at night and by day. One second. We know there's a mitzvah to read the Megillah by night and by day. Nonetheless, the reading of the Megillah by day is the main mitzvah. That's the more important of the two. That's the main mitzvah, to read it by day, and therefore that's going to determine what you are based on where you will be by the day. Now, let me read to you from the notes how this all comes out. So we have for the first case we have is a walled city resident went to an unwalled town. Okay, that means if a person from a walled city visits an unwalled town, his halachic status depends on where he will be at daybreak on the Purim of the unwalled town, which is the 14th of Adar, meaning he is presently in an unwalled town. He lives in a walled town, but he's now presently in an unwalled town. And guess what? It's Purim. Okay, he's there on the 14th of Adar. So the question is going to be, fine, you're there the 14th of Adar. What part of the 14th of Adar are you going to be there? If he will return home before daybreak on the 14th, that means he's out of there before daybreak. He's out of the 14th. He's back into the walled city by daybreak. At least he's out of the city. Maybe he's still traveling. I don't know. But he's out of he's out of the city before daybreak on the 14th. He does not read the Megillah with the people of the unwalled town, even at night where he is still there. Rather, he reads it on the 15th as usual. That means you are there the night of the 14th, but you know you'll be leaving town before daybreak of the 14th. You read the Megillah as you would where you live. You are a 15th Megillah reader. And therefore, even though you are present in the unwalled city on the night of the 14th, you don't got to go read the Megillah. You don't got to listen to the Megillah. However, if he will still be in the unwalled town at daybreak on the 14th, he is considered an unwalled town resident with respect to the Megillah. As such, he reads the Megillah on the 14th. So basically, if you're going to be there, this person who lives in a walled city, if he will be in the unwalled city by the day of the 14th, after daybreak of the 14th, he now gets the status of that place. He has to read the Megillah there. So that means at night, right, that you're going to be leaving by day. So that's it. You are considered for Purim a resident of the unwalled city. You got to listen to the Megillah on by night and by day. Okay. But if you will leave before daybreak, then you just, you'll leave before daybreak. You'll get home to the unwalled city, to the walled city. You'll be there Purim night. That's when you read the Megillah, like where you regularly live. Now, that's the first scenario. The next scenario is an unwalled town resident went to a walled city. Okay, a 14th person. Okay, a 14th person is now visiting a walled city. He is in the walled city on the 14th of Adar. Okay, he is. That's the case here. Mm-hmm. It's the 14th of Adar. He is in the walled city. So, if a person from an unwalled town went to a walled city, his halakha status depends on where he will be at daybreak on the Purim of the walled city, the 15th of Adar. So, number one, if he will return home before daybreak on the 15th, okay, he remains subject to the laws of unwalled town residents. Thus, he reads the Megillah on the 14th, even though he is in the walled city that day. That means he is there. That means he is in the. Again, this is the fellow. He's the unwalled resident in the walled city, right? So if he knows that on the 14th, and that's the 14th of Adar, if he knows that he will return home before daybreak of the 15th, then I don't care if he's in a walled city. He is a 14th person. He's got to read the Megillah on the 14th. So even though he's still in the walled city on the night of Purim, he's got to read because he is an unwalled resident. An unwalled resident reads the Megillah on the 14th, no matter where he is. Mm-hmm. If he will stay in the walled city until daybreak on the 15th, he is considered a walled city resident in this manner. Accordingly, he waits until the 15th to read the Megillah. So again, he's there the 14th, but he knows he's sticking around. And he's going to stay there till daybreak, till after daybreak of the 15th. He is now considered for Megillah reading a 15th person, and he will just, where everywhere, all the people where he usually lives with, they're going to be reading the Megillah, but he's going to wait till the 15th to read with the people of the walled city. So that's that's the first half of the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah goes into a whole different discussion. From where does one have to read the Megillah in order to fulfill his obligation? Now, we're all used to the fact you got to hear the whole thing, every single word. But actually, it's a machlekes. Mm-hmm. And that's the discussion of the Mishnah here. From where does one have to read the Megillah in order to fulfill his obligation? Let's just read the Mishnah, and then we'll go through what the argument revolves around. Rabbi Meir Oimer Kula. Rabbi Meir says the whole Megillah, as we say in Yiddish, the ganze Megillah, right? The whole Megillah. You got to hear the whole Megillah. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer Miyish Yehudi. Yehuda says no. You have to. You start reading from the part of the Megillah that talks about Mordechai. That's Ish Yehudi. Ish Yehudi. That's the second chapter. You have to read from the point of Mordechai's introduction. Now, again, according to both opinions, you got to finish. Wherever you start from, you got to go to the end. The question is, where do you have to start from? Rabbi Meir says, from the beginning. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, from Ish Yehudi, from where we're introduced to Mordechai. Rabbi Yosi says, you have to start reading the Megillah from after these things. That is where Haman is introduced. You have to read the Megillah from where Haman is introduced, and then from there, you go ahead and you end. But according to these opinions, what's before, whatever we just, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what's before Ish Yehudi, you don't have to read it to fulfill your obligation. And according to Rabbi Yosi, whatever before Haman, you don't have to read to fulfill your obligation. So what's the machlekes here? What's the question here? What's it revolving around? So here in the notes they bring down the explanation from the Gemara. The Megillah states, "Vatichtlev Esther Hamalka Mordechai Yehudi es kol teikef lekayim esigeres hapurim azais." Queen Esther and Mordechai, the Jew, wrote all the power to ratify this letter of Purim. So this word teikef, all the power, that's the word here that makes the difference in what this whole argument is about. The Gemara derives from this verse that when reading this letter of Purim, which means reading the Megillah, we must read about the power. These Tanoim disagree as to whose power the verse refers to. According to Reb Meir, refers to the power of Achashverosh. He therefore rules that we must read the Megillah from the beginning, since Achashverosh's power is mentioned from the beginning of the Megillah to the end. Okay, so that's Reb Meir. Why are you going to read the whole thing? Because you have to read about Achashverosh's power, and that's the beginning of the Megillah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, refers to the power of Mordechai. Thus, we fulfill our obligation if we begin in Perek Beis, chapter 2, Pasuk Hey, verse 5. It introduces Mordechai and his greatness. According to Rabbi Yossi, it refers to the power of Haman. So it suffices to begin at Perek Gimel, chapter 3, Pasuk Aleph, verse 1, which describes Haman's rise to power. All agree that one must read to the end of the Megillah. So the whole argument revolves around this word, the taikef that you have to read about. Who's taikef? And it's exclusive. It's either Achashverosh, or it's Mordechai, or it's Haman. The halach is like Reb Meir, which is why we have to read the whole Megillah from beginning to end. As we say, the ganze Megillah. Okay, have a wonderful day. A good tvach. Shvuah tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good. Very good.